Good afternoon, students. Welcome to the class on coordination chemistry. Yesterday, we have discussed about the theory and the structure of complexes using valency bond theory. And in this class, we will look at some examples which are useful for the competitive point of view. If you are given NiCO 4 times and if its magnetic moment is zero, then they will ask for either the structure or hybridization. So whenever you are asked questions on valency bond theory, you they need to provide two informations, either magnetic moment along with formula or structure along with formula or hybridization along with formula. If you are given only formula, then we cannot predict the structure exactly using valency bond theory. So whenever you are asked a question using valency bond theory, we will be given two informations, formula as well as magnetic moment value, or formula as well as magnetic character, either paramagnetic or diamagnetic. So those details will be given, right? Look at this molecule. This is tetracarbonyl nickel 0. Carbon monoxide charge is 0. So nickel is also in 0 oxidation state. Then nickel atomic number 28, whose configuration is argon 4s2 3d8. Three D, 4s, 4p. There were 8 electrons in D block, 5, 6, 7, 8. Then there are 2 electrons in s orbital. But see, we were given a magnetic moment of 0. If it is a magnetic moment of 0, then this is not the correct electronic configuration in the molecule. So this is the actual electronic configuration, but in the complex it will be different. In the complex it will be different. Why? If this is the electronic configuration in the complex also, then we will get a magnetic moment of 2.83 Bohr magnetons, because there were two unpaired electrons, but magnetic moment was given as 0. So we need to rearrange the electronic configuration. How? Here the two electrons in 4s will be forced to pair up in 3D, then 4s0, 4p0. So this is the nickel electronic configuration in the complex. Now we will get a magnetic moment of 0 because there are no single electrons. Now it undergoes sp3 hybridization. There are 4 ligands. We need 4 empty orbitals, 1 s orbital, 3 p orbitals, altogether 4 orbitals. sp3 hybridization, sp3 hybridization. When sp3 hybridization, it is tetrahedral geometry and bond angle is 109 degrees 28 minutes. So this is how we need to predict the structure hybridization using valency bond theory. If you were given this problem in a competitive exams, hardly it takes half minute to identify it. For example, I'll explain one more problem. If it is NiCl4 2 minus and its magnetic moment is 2.83 Bohr magnetons, then what is the structure? Of course, we know nickel atomic number 28, whose electronic configuration is 3d8, 4s2, 4p0. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 3d, 4s, 4p. It is 3d. Yeah, here in nickel tetrachloronickel 2, nickel is in +2 oxidation state because there are 4 chlorines. Nickel is in +2 oxidation state. In +2 oxidation state, we will take out these 2 electrons. We will take out these 2 electrons. So it is only 3d8, 4s0, 4p0. Now the magnetic moment is given. It is 2.83 Bohr magnetons. 2.83 Bohr magnetons is expected for a metal ion which is having 2 unpaired electrons. That means this electronic configuration is perfectly matching with the magnetic moment value. Then there are 4 chlorine ligands. So we need 4 empty orbitals. Here these 4 empty orbitals will be utilized. So it will be sp3 hybridization and tetrahedral shape. So to explain the structure of complexes using valency bond theory, hardly it takes half minute. It is very much useful for competitive exams. I'll give 2 problems for practice. Please take the notes and take the problem, solve the problems. Here, for this complex, magnetic moment is 0. Then what is the structure? Similarly, for another complex, NiAcAc twice, it is paramagnetic material. Paramagnetic material. What is the structure? You can, in the tetracyanonickelate complex, cyanide is -1 charge. So there are 4 -1, but overall it is 2 minus. That means nickel should be in +2 oxidation state. Nickel 28 in +2 oxidation state, it will be 3d8, 4s0, 4p0. Here magnetic moment was given as 0, but generally what we will do, we will write 8 electrons in all the 5d orbitals, but magnetic moment is given 0. So what we need to do, we need to make all these 8 electrons as pairs. It must be pairs. Then only we can say magnetic moment is 0. Now there are 4 ligands, so we need 4 empty orbitals. One orbital in 3d, one orbital in 4s, 2 orbitals in 4p. So it will give dsp2 hybridization. dsp2 hybridization will give square planar geometry. So this is how we need to analyze each and every problem. Now look at the next problem. acetyl acetate. Its charge is -1. Acetyl acetanoate. So its charge is -1. When the charge is -1, it should be 2 minus, but overall the charge is 0. That means nickel is in +2 oxidation state. So again it will be D8 only. The 2 electrons in s orbital will be removed first. As I said, it must be the outer electrons which must be removed. So the 2 electrons in 4s will be removed, then nickel will be having D8. Now it was given as a paramagnetic material. Paramagnetic means it must have unpaired electron. So this is the electronic configuration. If this is the configuration, it should be diamagnetic. But if these two single electrons are there, then only it will be paramagnetic. Then AC is a bidentate ligand where each ligand will form two bonds. There are two such ligands, so it will form four bonds. It will form four bonds. That means we need four empty orbitals. It will undergo sp3 hybridization tetrahedral geometry. I'll give you one more practice problem. MnCl4 2 minus is paramagnetic. Then what is the structure and magnetic moment value?
Yes, sir.
Here overall charge of the complex is 2 minus. Chlorine, there are 4 chlorines, it will be 4 minus, but overall charge is only 2 minus. That means metal is in +2 oxidation state. Then only 2 plus 4 minus, it becomes 2 minus. So tetrachloromanganate 2 ion. Now manganese, scandium, titanium, vanadium, chromium, manganese, atomic number 25, electronic configuration 3d5, 4s2, but it is +2 oxidation state. We need to remove those 2 electrons in s orbital. So it is 3d5. Then three D, 4s, 4p. 1, 2, 3. And you may think that if they are paired, then also we will get single electron. But there are 4 ligands. That means it must give dsp2 hybridization or sp3 hybridization. It is not a d2sp hybridization. Okay. If you think that it will give, it will be paired up, okay, partly, so that is not possible. So it will have all 5 electrons in each d orbital. Then 4s orbital, 4p orbitals are empty. Then it will undergo sp3 hybridization, which gives tetrahedral. And because this is having single electrons, it is paramagnetic in nature. And there are 5 single electrons, so its magnetic moment will be 5.92 Bohr magnetons. Now we will look at electroneutrality principle and back bonding. What is this electroneutrality principle? For example, if you take a complex of Ml6 2 plus, what we are saying, each ligand will give one lone pair of electrons. That means if each ligand is negatively charged, or if it is giving a lone pair of electrons, we can take -1 charge. So 6 ligands are there, it will donate -6 charge. Because metal is in +2 oxidation state, so the overall charge on metal must be -4. Is it true? As we know, all metals are electropositive. That means they are stable with positive charge. They are unstable with negative charge mostly. So that means this concept is wrong, right? When ligand is donating electrons, negative charge will be accumulated on metal. So in the complex, metal must have negative charge, but that is not true. Why? Why? Because it will follow electroneutrality principle. It will follow electroneutrality principle. Electroneutrality principle was proposed by Pauling. According to this principle, complexes could be more stable when the electronegativity of the ligands was such that the metal achieved a condition of essentially zero net electrical charge. How it is possible? It is possible when there is a possibility of back donation. That means in a complex, ligand is donating electron charge to the metal, so metal will get negative charge. But we are saying metal in negative charge is not stable. If it is having neutral charge, then it is stable. Then how it is possible when there is a bond between metal and ligand? Now metal is electron rich, so it will back donate the electrons to the ligand. It will back donate the electrons to the ligand. So this is how metal donates additional charge to the ligand back, and then it will be neutralized. So this is what is called a electroneutrality principle. Because of this back bonding, we can explain the properties of some materials. Here, mostly ligands with empty pi orbitals, empty pi star orbitals will easily involve in back bonding. In this case, see carbon monoxide, which is having empty pi star orbitals, easily involves in back bonding. This is a normal bond where carbon monoxide with a negative charge on carbon will form a single bond with the metal. So metal will get partially negative charge. Oxygen will be, of course, it will be having partial positive charge, because this is the actual structure of carbon monoxide. Now, because metal is gaining electronegative charge, what it will do, it will try to donate the additional electrical charge back to the carbon monoxide ligand. Then what happens? Initially there is a single bond, but because of the back donation, what will happen? There will be a double bond between metal and carbon. Now the triple bond will be broken down, so it will be double bond. Now because of this back bonding can be explained easily using IR spectroscopy. In IR spectroscopy, the bonds will vibrate. So IR spectroscopy peaks are nothing but their energies, bond strength. If your bond is strong, then it will have a peak at a very high lambda values. But if your bond is weak, it will give a peak at very low lambda values. When we will say bond is strong, when we will say bond is weak, if it is having triple bond, it is more stable. If it is having single bond, it is less stable. If it is double bond, triple bond is more stable than double bond is more stable than single bond. Now, if you think that there is no back bonding, back donation, then this is the actual structure. That means there should be C triple bond O. So accordingly, IR will give a peak. But actually, IR gives a peak for C double bond O, not for C triple bond O. So this is the evidence. Generally, C double bond will be observed at around 1700 centimeter inverse. If it is C triple bond, it has to be observed below 1700, maybe 1400 or 1000, something like that. But generally, if back bonding occurs, we will have double bond. So in IR spectroscopy, we will get a peak at 1700 centimeter inverse. This is how we can explain back bonding. Now we will look at the limitations of valency bond theory. Most transition metal complexes are colored, but this theory provides no explanation for their electronic spectra. So color is not explained by VBT. Now this theory does not explain why the magnetic properties vary with the temperature. And this theory also does not explain why sometimes we need to pair the electrons and other cases electrons are not paired. So the complete structural details, valency bond theory can only give a primary details. It cannot give complete details.